Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It happened. Today I took a loss, and yes, it is okay, but I'm gonna be sharing like my thoughts with you guys, what happened, what I was aiming for, and basically just gonna run through my mind and the trade I took. And yes, but you know what, guys? I took a loss, and you know what happened? I didn't die. So, I mean, at the end of the day, a loss is just a loss, and it's something we can learn from and grow from and take it as a lesson, you know? Like, I took a loss, but I had a stop loss in place, so my account was protected. I didn't go into max drawdown. I still have my account. So I entered into the trade and I took a loss. So there we go. I mean, the fact that I took a loss, I didn't go into max drawdown, and I'm still here, I'm still trading, I'd say that's a win. Now, I'm going to be going through the trade that I took and essentially showing you what happened, what was going through my mind, and why I ended up taking this trade. It's kind of... So the reason I took this trade was because I was having FOMO. And essentially I had a trade that I wanted to get in, and I didn't press the button and I didn't get in on time. So, you know, as I was waiting, I eventually just said, you know what, I'm just gonna get in. And then the market pulled back to a level that I was expecting it to pull back to, and then of course trading higher. So yes, I will go through all of that with you on the charts, but I just wanted to quickly say I took a loss and I'm okay. I didn't die. We're still here. We still have the account because of the stop loss, and I'm okay. So I think moving forward, I'm gonna be okay. We're gonna try to get into our trades, and it's gonna be okay. Like, losses are just part of the game, and it happens, you know? So I think moving forward, I'm really gonna be okay with entering into my trades. I know I'll still have my days like today when I didn't enter into the position I wanted to enter, and then I waited for it, and then I got in, and I'll explain everything. But just the fact that I can say, hey, you know what, I'm still here, I can trade another day, I didn't blow an account, I did take a loss, but we learned from it, right? So anyways, let's get right into the charts, as I want to be doing one of these a day. So here we go. Monday, October 23rd. Let's jump right in. Okay, so we're starting on the daily, but since it is Monday, the beginning of the week, I like to start on the weekly chart. Kind of give us insight on what I want to see, what I'm looking for in price, where price could potentially go. So personally, what I saw from this weekly chart is this weekly volume imbalance down here. Now, we also have this sell side liquidity and then some liquidity underneath these lows right here. I am more biased towards sells this week. However, since I'm more biased towards sells, I'm expecting Monday, Tuesday to make a high. So going in with that mindset, I was like, okay, Monday, I'd like to see potential buys, because if we were going to go down throughout the week, I'd like to see our Judas swing Monday, Tuesday, make our high, and then move down. So with that in mind, I was like, okay, we'll probably see buys. So let's go down to the daily chart. On the daily chart, we did take out this weekly low on during last night, so that is cool. So we already have this weekly low taken out. if we are gonna go higher, I'd probably like to see some of this daily fair value gap filled in and a potential retracement to this now weekly inversion volume imbalance, and potentially these London highs, relative equal highs. Now, that is pretty far away, considering like that's still, I don't know, like 50 points or something. So even though I wanted to see buys, I wasn't expecting it to go all the way up there today, that is for sure. So let's go down to the 1 hour. Now, on the 1 hour, I had these lows marked out here as they are London lows. I did want to see a potential trade down into these, take these out, and then move higher. And we do see that happen right here. Now my draw on liquidity is these relative equal highs, the fill of the new week opening gap, this 1 hour fair value gap, and if we can go down to the 15-minute, we have this liquidity void here. So I had these all marked out on my chart before we opened this morning at 9:30. So these are my draws on liquidity. This liquidity void, the high of this new week opening gap, these relative equal highs. And if we can get exaggerated, I would like to see these relative equal highs, London highs traded to, potentially traded to tomorrow, and this week, our weekly inversion fair value gap, volume imbalance, sorry. So we'll see if we can get to these highs right here and the weekly volume imbalance by Tuesday. Who knows, maybe we'll trade to today, but my main objectives are these relative equal highs and of course the fill of the 1 hour fair value gap, which we eventually did, and now we're continuing to do. So now that we know my draw on liquidity was higher, let's get down to the 5-minute chart. All right, so 5-minute. This actually wasn't here quite yet. So I did notice this 15-minute fair value gap after the fact when we were, when it formed. So let's just pretend that's not there just quite yet. So we traded down, took out these London lows here. So we took out sell side liquidity, and then we had this displacement run taking place, traded higher. Look at this break of market structure right here. We took out this high. So now we have a displacement run, break of market structure. We have our draw on liquidity, which of course is the liquidity void here and the relative equal highs, right? This 1 hour fair value gap. So we have these areas of liquidity, buy side liquidity that we want to see reached. So I go down into the 1-minute chart. Oh, I want to show you something cool too. So on the 5-minute chart here, we also essentially have this immediate rebalance right in here, as you can see. So we know that ICT talks about how those immediate rebalances can be pretty awesome. So keep that in mind. 1 minute. All right, so now we're on the 1-minute chart. Basically, we look at what has happened so far, so then we can make predictions of what is going to happen. So we see the market come down into this 1-minute fair value gap right here and then trade higher. So we already have this break of market structure. We have this displacement run taking place. Now, if we look closer, you see this 1-minute fair value gap right here. Look at how we traded down into that perfectly, except this happened at 9:58. And as you all know, our entry time is from 10 to 11, right? So we're actually waiting for the market to potentially trade back down into this fair value gap within that time frame. So I see this happen right here. Now, this is where my trade, I wanted my trade to be, but of course I was scared to get into the market. And we hadn't reached our take profit targets yet, which would have been this 1 hour fair value gap, this liquidity void, and the high of the new week opening gap. So as you can see, if we would have taken the trade here at 10:02 on this 1 minute fair value gap, which I wanted to do, we would have been able to profit and hit our target of this liquidity void. However, I was, waiting for, something, And then we also had this potential entry right here. And as I was watching the market, I was like, oh, we could have gotten there, we could have gotten in here, here. So understand when I say I had like multiple entries to get into my trade. We even had a potential entry to get into here. So we had these entries here that I was like, okay, I want to get into the trade, and I just couldn't. So by the time I was like, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna do it and enter into my trade, having that like FOMO reaction, not waiting for this pullback to happen, my trade ended up being, not this one, my trade ended up being right here. Yes, right here. So as you can see, we had our stop loss below this low of 5 points. Why wouldn't it? And then our take profit would have been the relative equal highs. So yeah, it was still 12 points away. And you know what? Sometimes these trades work out. Like, we had our drawn liquidity. I mean, if the market's super trending, like sometimes these trades play out. So, but the fact that I waited for it for so long and it had already reached my first take profit, which would have been this liquidity void, this trade to me seems more of like a FOMO trade, and I know better, but I was just like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna enter into the market because I have a hard time entering. So I entered into the market, and then the market was like, girl, why didn't you wait for that pullback? So this is where I found the 15-minute fair value gap. So if we go back up to the 15-minute, we can see that this 15-minute fair value gap formed at 9:45, and of course finally formed after 10. So it was like here after the 10 o'clock candle. So I was like, okay, we could potentially pull back into this 15-minute fair value gap and then reach for our relative equal highs, London highs, which we can see has happened. So at least we know where the market's headed, right? That's a good thing. Anyways, we see the market headed and reach our TP, which just makes this so much more sweet, yes. And I seen this 15-minute fair value gap, and I was like, we could potentially trade down into it. But I was like, no, like the market could go higher. And these are things that are going through my head. I had already missed 3 potential opportunities to profit on the market. I was like, what the heck, like, why can't you get into the trade? So then when I finally entered into the trade, it was above the opening range gap, settlement price. It was above our first take profit, and honestly, it was just not the best entry. Considering we're also in the 1 minute time frame, we have to allow for the market to come back, pull back, and take out sell side liquidity. Like that usually happens, like what it did here. We pulled back, took out these lows right here, traded into the 15-minute fair value gap, and moved higher. Now, if I didn't take the trade already, my rules say that I'm only allowed to take 1 trade a day. That's it. Done. After I take my 1 trade a day, win or loss, I'm done. So I had already taken a loss today, so I was not getting into the market. I'm following my rules. It's helped me with my risk management, so done. If I hadn't taken this trade, I would have seen this trade right here, and I would have been able to obviously profit off of this one, because look, we have this draws into the higher time frame, takes out sell side liquidity into the 15-minute fair value gap higher, made a displacement run. We already had like a break of market structure from on the higher time frame levels. Got in here, and of course we would have been able to profit on this, and comes to our final TP. So sometimes it's just better to wait. I mean, and I know this, and you know, I'm learning and I'm sharing this and trying to be real and vulnerable with you guys. And yeah, I took a loss, but you know, I learned from it, and I understand what I did wrong, where I went wrong, and if I hadn't had gotten into the trade prematurely after the thought, before the retracement, before the pullback into the 15-minute fair value gap, we could have potentially traded this right here and then entered. But yes, so even though I took a loss, it wasn't the end of the world. Like, I still have my account, I can still trade all week. I mean, it just, maybe this just needed to happen to show me, listen, like, if you get into the trade, it's fine. Win or loss, it's fine. As long as you have a stop loss, as long as you're learning from it, as long as you're not getting into a trade out of FOMO, it's okay. So even though I took a loss today, I'm still happy with the way things turned out. I can still see clearly how the market played out, how we went into that higher time frame fair value gap of the 15-minute fair value gap, took out that sell side liquidity there, then traded higher into our relative equal highs, London session high drawn liquidity. So a little bit of a bittersweet moment for me, considering I saw where the market was headed and I understood where it would be heading. It's just wrong trade, you know, and that's okay. Things happen, but this is why we have a stop loss. This is why we continue to learn. And yeah, I mean, yeah. So that is it for today. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you can learn from my failed trade to always just don't get FOMO with your trades. Like, we had another entry. Right? If I hadn't had taken an entry before, we would have been able to potentially profit on that liquidity run. And I think it just goes to show, like, we're human. We have these emotions, and it's okay. And you know what, Alicia? It's okay to enter the market. Like, no matter what, you're not gonna die. Everything's gonna be all right. We have a stop loss for a reason. So I think this is going to help me in the future with entering into my trades, especially when the setup forms before, and try not to get FOMO. But yeah. So let's take a drink to that, shall we? Cheers. I hope you guys learned something. I know I learned something today, even though we didn't profit. We had our 5 points stop loss, so we are down on the day, but there's always going to be another day to trade. And the fact that we didn't reach max loss, we still have lots of room in our Top Step account, we're going to be okay. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you learned something from this video. I definitely learned something from myself, my emotions today, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye now.